What's up guys, this is Wenzes. Welcome back to my channel where we talk about creating an epic life on your terms. And today we're asking the questions, are INFJ inverse ESTPs? Are we gonna use that knowledge to our own advantage when it comes to personal growth? Or should we actually get together with ESTPs in any kind of scenario in order to optimize our power? These are the things we're gonna talk about today. And before we get started, I wanna remind you, if you wanna take the next step in creating your epic life and you want my help in it, then sign up to work with me privately. You can book a free discovery call, all the information you find below. So let's talk about INFJs and ESTPs. Both have the same functions. I don't think that most people are really aware of it because they seem so different on the outside. ESTPs are all about the external world, what's really going on in reality, and INFJs are all in the clouds. We all know INFJs have the four functions: introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and then extroverted sensing. And guess what? ESTP is that exact same thing, just in reverse. So their strongest function is extroverted sensing, then introverted thinking, extroverted feeling, and then introverted intuition. That being said, a lot of INFJs say that it's really hard for them to be around ESTPs because they always want to say what's going on, what they're gonna do. They have a plan of what they want, and this is what we lack so often. So it has happened a lot, specifically in my youth, where I was very attracted to ESTPs in my surroundings. It could have been a romantic partner, it could have been friends, it could have just been mentors, because there was a person who did all the things that I was so attracted towards, but I wasn't able to do myself. Specifically when we're younger, we're not that developed in our inferior functions. This is going to be like this for the rest of our lives, of course, but the younger we are, the less power we have over those functions. So a 15-year-old INFJ has less power over their introverted thinking than, let's say, the same INFJ 10 or 20 years later. Same thing goes for all the functions. I think with time you get better with it, and of course, remember the first function is the one we have the longest, that is the one that is most strongly developed, and the list goes on and on. And this is of course for every personality type. This is not an INFJ thing. So the ones of us who don't reject ESTPs, who are actually open to that because we can learn so much from each other, because we can benefit from each other, there's one big risk we have to think about and we shouldn't neglect. The fact is that it's the easiest way to project what we don't want to do onto the other. And that doesn't just mean us towards ESTPs, that also means ESTPs towards us. So let's, for example, talk about the last two functions. So for us, it's introverted thinking and extroverted sensing. For us, those are the functions that we value so much, but it's still hard for us to really tap into it. So if we have somebody around us who takes charge in these functions, if we're not consciously aware of it, we're gonna allow other people to take charge of them and then to kind of like go with their flow. So that does not mean that this is necessarily a problem if you have ESTPs in your life or people who have strong introverted thinking or strong extroverted sensing. It's a problem when you're not aware of it and you allow that to dictate your life. So let's say you have a coworker who is an ESTP. If you're in a position where you don't project, you see that ESTP coworker who works a lot, they're very productive, they're going and doing their thing. And if you are really firm with who you are, you see them, you appreciate them, you have a good time with each other, but you're not their sidekick necessarily. You're somebody who has their own agenda, who knows exactly what you want to do, what you want to achieve. And when you can work together, you work together greatly. But you're not necessarily letting go of all the reign of the power of what your TI will tell you or what your SE will tell you, and let the ESTP do that for you. In some situations, it might be very beneficial. So for example, if your boss is an ESTP and you're somebody who helps them, this is the natural flow of things. But very often, we're not necessarily in that position. We just work together, and that's the dynamic that gets created. They're the ones who say, this is the pace we're gonna work at, and you're the one who can decide, okay, am I gonna do my own thing or am I going to be the sidekick of them? It's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes that can be the best thing that works for both of you. I've done this. In one of my last jobs, this was exactly what was happening, that when it came to the SE and TI part, I let them take the reign. And when it came to understanding everything from a brother perspective and making sure that she doesn't get into conflict with a lot of people, because I could sense when things are getting out of hand, I was there. But this happened in a workspace situation. It's one thing if you say, this is the best way we can work together. It's another thing to say, that's how I'm gonna live my life. For example, with your best friend or your partner. It can be a great combination information. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this will hinder you. But the moment you let go of your own TI and your own SE because the other one is going to be stronger in them, you're not following your own path. You're not allowing yourself to grow. When you get to a point where you actually say, I'm going to take care of this myself, I'm going to actually tap into my owner ESTP, then you're automatically going to choose a different field, a different way of working, a different way of communicating with reality. You will still meet ESTPs in your life, but it will be a different dynamic, because the more you focus on your own path, the less you're going to allow your mind to wander off and to sort of be a sidekick in other people's plans and situations. It's never a problem when it's a conscious choice and you know that this is the best thing for both of you and it goes greatly, specifically when you can take care of their weaknesses. For example, as I said, in the FE department or the NI department, which for example would be that you have a broader vision. You can help your friend, your coworker, your partner to find their way as well. But still, no matter how well my NI is, I will never ever be able to have that great of an NI as the ESTP could have for themselves. That sound weird? Well, wait a minute. My NI is much stronger than theirs. Of course, and I understand other people really well through my FE, but there's still this part in us that only we know about. That one honest truth. No matter what kind of image I have of my ESTP friend, it will always be an image through my lenses, through my worldview. It will never be the worldview of an ESTP. So if the ESTP decides that they want to start growing even more, they too have to tap into their NI, knowing that will never ever be as strong as, for example, the NI of an INFJ, and that they consciously have to work on it over and over again. They consciously have to do meditation. They consciously have to get into their own zone to know what their big goal is, where they're headed. But when they can tap into this, they go towards their most honest truth. And that is the same thing for us. See, I was in a relationship with an ESTP when I was younger, probably from 16 till on and off like 23. So it was a lot of time we spent together, and there was a lot of mashing when it came to those worldviews. And specifically in that time, I was so drawn to SE and TI, and I didn't want to take care of it myself because I knew how hard it was. Once you commit to doing this, you cannot back out of it anymore. You decided where you want to go. You decide that you're in control of this. And at that moment, all the dynamics that you had with people changed, not just ESTPs, because you know that all people have their own TI and their own SE. No matter how strong or weak it is, no matter if they have TI or SE in their MBTI functional stack, it's still something that you stop projecting. It could be even that you have a friend who is an INFP and still they have this sense of this is where I want to go and this is what I want to do and that's the way how it's going to go, and you always listen to them. You're always there supporting them, or you allow them to be the first one to take the road and you're behind them. That is something that we do because it takes energy to take care of your own path. We value it, that's why we have it in our stack, but we're not that strong in it. So the moment you decide, I'm gonna go my own path, of course your dynamics will change. Of course all your friendships, all the relationships you have with your coworkers, with your future partner, whatever it is, will change because you have changed. See, I did a lot of videos probably like 4 years ago when I talked about compatibility of INFJs and other personality types. I also did a couple of videos on this like 2 years ago as well. And I still believe there are certain dynamics that happen with the different types. But the more mature you are as an INFJ, the more you take care of your own things, the less you project, the more you integrate, the more you become your inner ESTP, so to say, the easier it is to get along with all the personality types. You don't clash so much, and you don't allow other personality types to be your solution. You go your path and you just connect with people who can add to this. Maybe some personality types cannot add that much as others can. And this is of course also a question from person to person, but it still won't be as hard as the moment when you still project so much. And I'm not that naive to think that I don't project at all. I know that this is a journey, and every single time I'm able to overcome something, to integrate a part into myself, I get to take responsibility for one more aspect of my reality. I understand that this is happening, and and then the dynamics change. And for me, it's become something that I do so frequently that, of course, if I look at how a relationship has changed over the last 2 years, I can see the changes, but it's not something that happens from one day to the other. It's subtle changes, incremental changes that happen over and over again. So how do you tap into your inner ESTP? Well, first off, remember, you'll never be an ESTP. It's not something that you have to be afraid of, that you'll give up your INFJness, that you'll lose who you really are. And I've had people tell me, oh, you sound like an ESTP in your videos, and are you sure you're an INFJ? I gotta remind you, this is 20 minutes that I do this. This is 20 minutes when I sit down, I'm all by myself, I gather all my energy, and I bring this information out. You don't know what I'm doing the rest of the day, that I'm working from the couch, or that I'm working and writing people and doing everything in my introverted sense. It's not obvious how much of my time I use to contemplate, work on my mindset. This is still the majority of me. And I want you to understand that even when you start actively tapping into TI and SE in a healthy way, you will see that it will be less strong than you ever thought it would be. You know, we're so often afraid of showing our dark side. And our dark side oftentimes has to do something with our SE. Taking responsibility for what we want, making it happen in the real world, being open for people to judge us because now we actually represent something. Before, there's so much going on in your mind, you can never really bother anybody. You know, some people are exactly aggravated by the fact that you're not showing something, so they can't judge you, they don't know who you are. But it's still one of those things that keep us moving forward thinking, but I don't bother anybody. I'm trying to be as agreeable as possible. The moment you step into SE, that part of you is over. But you'll still see it's not as strong as you think. It's not gonna have such a big impact as you fear. Most of us are afraid once I show this part of me, it's like this monster comes out, people will get really shamed or hurt or whatever it is once I show my truth through that. But that only happens the first moment. This happens because people get taken back because they thought they knew you and now they see, oh, she or he is so much stronger than I thought. They have so much to say and they actually saw me all that time and they can judge me. That's what people are afraid of. But once you commit to doing this over and over again, this becomes your new normal. People actually find a new dynamic towards you. They find a new way of taking on relationships. And with TI, it's the similar thing. It's about understanding that your TI is never going to be as strong as your FE, for example. That it's more about leaning into your extroverted side instead of going over and over in those NITI loops, for example. So it's about showing your truth. It's about stating and doing something in the real world, although you know it's going to be slower than maybe if your ESTP friend would do it. I have learned that. I've learned that the way for me to move forward will start very slowly. It's similar to the learning curve where we said we do have an exponential learning curve. That's how it's going to be here as well. The moment you take on making your thoughts a reality, it's going to start slowly. And it's going to start slowly not just because your SE is inferior and because there's not so much power behind it. Of course, it's going to get stronger the more you lean into it. You don't get into the grip. It's just like I keep on doing the things that are really in my mind. But it's not just that aspect. It's also because your dreams are so big. Your NI is huge. It's developed. It has so much potential. And tapping into that is scary. Really bringing your inner ESTP out is about making your vision a reality. That's what we talk about in the 5 pillars. That's what I teach my clients over and over again. If you haven't done that, download the free poster of the 5 pillars. It will help you a lot because we have to learn step by step how to make our reality get closer to our vision. It is a process, but it's doable. And then you also learn that you cannot use your TI in order to understand people so well. It will always get manipulated by other people's TI because our TI is just not that strong altogether in order to be able to absorb somebody else's energy, to understand what they're going through, what they're thinking, and not getting sidetracked by their thinking. Every single time we open ourselves up to this, we also see that our mind becomes more like their mind. We start liking their music, we like focusing on their problems, on their preferences, and that happens because our TI is not strong enough in that moment to remember who we are. So don't be so strict with with yourself and expect so much. Make it more about your own journey. You'll see that that won't make you a bad person because you're following your goal. You're following a vision, and that vision brings abundance for you and for others. The more you focus on your own path, the less your TI has to take care of other worlds as well. Focus on remembering what you want, where you're going, and putting those things into action. And you'll see how that version of you makes you feel fulfilled without having any other people you would have to project anything on. I really hope that helped and inspired you. Remember, if you want to take the next step in creating your epic life, then work with me privately. You find all the information below. You can book a free discovery call. And if you want to watch another video now that is in line with today's topic, then watch the video on the INFJ learning curve, because it takes a special kind of learning approach in order to be able to integrate all those parts. Like always, guys, I wish you a wonderful day, a great week, and I talk to you next time. Bye.